on this episode of Indiana Education Insight.
We also provide educational grants and scholarships, primarily through our TCU Foundation that's been in existence since the early 90s. And so over the course of time, we've given back to our communities and through the educational grants and scholarships about $3 million.
Every week, the Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents is taking you inside today's Indiana education collaboration and tomorrow's education trends. We're staying on the pulse of public school innovators throughout Indiana and beyond. Join our conversation and contribute to our upcoming topics at iapssin.org/podcast. Here's your host, Dr. J.T. Koopman.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Indiana Education Insight. I'm Dr. J.T. Koopman, Executive Director of the IAPSS, and this podcast is being delivered by our IAPSS team and produced by our friends at Edge Media Studios. As Executive Director of IAPSS, I'm excited to bring you this weekly show where we feature Indiana education innovators from all over our great state, from students to superintendents. We'll also be talking to higher education leaders and educators at the state level as we work together to be proactive public education advocates. That's why IAPSS is here and why we're proud to bring you this show. Every week, we're talking about trending topics in the public education space while bringing Indiana education innovators and hear their perspective. As with any organization, it takes great leadership to be successful, and that is one of the main missions of IAPSS, developing great school district leaders. It is always great to have experienced and passionate educators joining the show, so let's get started with today's conversation. Today's guest is Karol Griffith, Director of the Financial Empowerment Community Outreach and Historian at Teachers Credit Union. And we also have Drew Guthrie, Chief Operating Officer at FoolProof, along with Mike Sheffer, the Director of Education for FoolProof. They have made several presentations as well as numerous public speaking engagements, so they have been instrumental in shaping the conversation about Indiana public schools. And of course, they look at education from various lenses, which is very important, and they have been a tremendous asset to public education in Indiana. Let's find out how they view the issues in public education. So let's get started with Karol. Karol has appeared on this show previously, and that show was on June 18th, and we've invited them all back to tell us more about TCU's Financial Empowerment Program, powered by FoolProof, and how to effectively implement the program in the classrooms. Welcome back, Mrs. Griffith, Mr. Guthrie, and Mr. Sheffer. We are thrilled to have you join us again on today's podcast. Karol, when we talked with you last time, you shared about Teacher Credit Union's mission and the longstanding commitment to financial well-being of members, communities, and schools, which includes educational resources such as the Financial Literacy Program, and that is why it's important today. Can you tell us a bit more about the benefits of providing the resources to schools in helping students and teachers?
Sure. Well, first, we want to thank you again for inviting us back to share more about the program, and we consider it an honor to do so. We are very pleased to be here and to share with you the program that is free to all schools, and free is always good.
Free's good.
Free's good because it provides for schools who are have limited budgets, and also for teachers who have limited resources, not to have to search for a program that has cost to it, but is a robust program that meets the needs of teaching personal finance in our middle schools and high schools. So it saves our teachers money. We've heard a lot of stories about how teachers have taken out of their own pocket to buy school supplies and things to help supplement their classrooms. And so with this program, they don't need to do that. It also is turnkey program, and teachers have limited time. They have a lot that they have to cover with their students throughout the school year. And so with the turnkey program, lesson plans are completely developed for them.
Absolutely.
There's some additional activities and other resources and tools to make their classroom a great experience for student learning. with this program. So that's going to save them time. And one of the other things that teachers always want to know is this program going to meet the Indiana academic standards for personal finance? And it does. So it's something they don't have to research. We can tell them emphatically that it does meet the personal finance standards that are required for students in the middle school and the high school. Another thing is it's preparing our students for the future. Personal finance is a life skill, and students need to learn at a very early age how to handle money, how to save and borrow and spend and plan. And those principles and those skills that they learn at an early age will carry them through life. And so, bottom line, we believe that if our schools have the resources that they need and they're strong, that makes for a stronger community. And so we're graduating students that have life skills that they need. It helps our schools. It helps our community.
Outstanding. So what other ways does TCU provide resources and support for Indiana schools and teachers?
Well, we like to refer to this as the 3 T's. We provide back to our communities and our schools of our time, our talent, and our treasure. And we have 54 locations throughout the state and nearly 700 team members. And with that, we have a lot of our team members, particularly in our local levels and our branches, who go into the classroom and they may be actually teaching a course in personal finance. They may be doing just general financial institution information about products and services that they have to offer. Sure. Or a teacher may request, can you come in and talk about budgeting and why that's so important to help supplement the classroom and do some activities with the students. So they're looked at many times as, an expert in personal finance because we are a financial institution. And so that's one of the ways. We also provide educational grants and scholarships, primarily through our TCU Foundation that's been in existence since the early 90s. And so over the course of time, we've given back to our communities and through the educational grants and scholarships about $3 million. And so that helps our schools and our students to go on and that after they graduate from high school for potentially earning a scholarship from us. The other way is we do a lot of sponsorships. We sponsor teacher programs, teacher orientations, back to school time is we're talking about that now, and so we've had a lot of our staff and team members that have been out into the schools during these orientations, and we also sponsor a lot of conferences, whether it's a teacher conference, a principal conference, or a superintendent's conference, so that we are working very closely with our schools and we look at them as partners in our communities. And so where our teachers and administrators live, our team members also do as well, and they're active with their schools.
Right. Well, let's move over to Drew. So, Drew, the next 2 questions are going to be for you. How does FoolProof fit into the resources and support provided by TCU?
Well, it's really great, JT, because, as Karol was mentioning, they have so many different products and services through the TCU and the TCU Foundation that really support their local communities. FoolProof provides that educational backbone to be able to help make sure that all of their services meet those Indiana standards, like Karol said. So when you think about the education side of things, students learn in multiple different ways. As FoolProof, we provide the online resources. We provide the modules, and as Karol also mentioned, the classroom activities, some individual essays as well. And so what goes beyond that? That's what TCU provides. They provide that in-person, in-class experience to help emphasize what the teachers really want to emphasize. So they provide those individualized resources for their local communities. And that's what FoolProof can help them bring to the community. We bring the curriculum, but they bring those boots on the ground and the local community touch to really make sure that the students are learning what they need. Okay,
great, Drew. Well, speaking of curriculum, what's new for this school year?
So every August, we at FoolProof have a large new release, and this year's release is very exciting. Part of it was actually highlighted on Good Morning America just a month or so ago. Feel free to go check out that wonderful story that they did about the FoolProof program, specifically about our middle school program, which we just launched earlier this year. that is designed to not only meet the academic standards, but teach something that's really unique for FoolProof is that healthy skepticism. Make sure that kids know what questions to ask with anyone who wants access to their welfare or their wallet.
Sure.
So we teach them, how to ask those questions. What is trustworthiness? It's a really big topic that goes so far beyond financial literacy that it's truly life skills. So we're really excited to have Good Morning America feature our new middle school program. In addition, our high school program has some great new updates as well. We continue to add the Spanish version where every module, high school module, is completely translated. Right now, the first 8 modules, 8 of 18, are live, and we're going to continue making those live throughout the school year.
Okay.
Final big piece that we added this year are pre-tests. So we want to make sure that we see the impact. What are kids really learning? What did they know coming into the modules, and what knowledge did they gain afterwards?
Sure.
So through every pre-test, we make sure that they are tested on what's coming up in the module, and then we can see what knowledge they gained at the end. So that is through all of our modules. Those are all live right now for all of our high school modules, and we're really excited to see the results roll in.
Great. Well, I love your enthusiasm, Drew. So thank you so much. So next series of questions are going to be from Mike Sheffer, the Director of Education and a former teacher. So Mike, as a former educator yourself, what are the teacher benefits from using TCU's financial empowerment that goes through FoolProof?
Well, thanks, JT. Some of the great things about FoolProof kind of work through the process. FoolProof is all turnkey.
Sure.
Turnkey means it's all inclusive. The curriculum can be accessed from the internet. Everything the teacher needs is there. I know as a teacher, I was a teacher prior to the internet and after the internet, and we just spent so much time looking for materials for our classrooms. So the nice thing about it is everything is there for the teacher in FoolProof. It's web driven. And like I said, it's all on the internet. So as a former educator, I never had a student be absent. I never had a student be suspended. I never had a student, not be in class, which is, just a joke on that situation. So the idea is that with this, the teacher can actually assign FoolProof in a lot of different ways as compared to just in the classroom every single day. We started with peer interaction with FoolProof when we first created it because we realized that students were tired of being talked at. They wanted to be talked to. So the peer interaction in FoolProof, all the videos in FoolProof are 100% in their age group, the middle school, the high school versions of FoolProof, and it really seems to resonate with our students. We talked about 100% aligned to financial standards in Indiana.
Sure.
I'm the one who goes through there, make sure we all align it. It's posted on FoolProof. We also have something on FoolProof when I take you live on it. It'll show when a student completes the module and is successful with the test, it checks off the standard for the teacher so they know it's been met.
Wow.
We also have teaching guides for FoolProof, introductory teaching lessons. We have teaching quick start guides if they can't remember, if they saw me speak or someone from TCU speak and they can't remember exactly how to go about the process of registering students or registering teachers. We have that for them too. And then the intro topics lead into what the teaching that's going to occur in FoolProof. And then, of course, Drew talked about the pre and the post test. We're a big believer in standard learning objective. We know teachers are being evaluated on that. We want to make sure that these teachers know that what they're teaching is meeting the curriculum that's set by the state.
Sure.
So as we look at the pre and the post test, we integrated the pre-test into the modules, and the post-test will be the module test. So a student and teacher will know, and administrator will know, they can see that, hopefully, that increase in production and the grade point average to measure the standard learning objective.
Okay.
We also have graded tests by FoolProof. So the way it works is these tests are then designed to be cumulative on the amount of knowledge that we presented in the module, but also they're randomized. So as I go back to, we never have an attendance problem. We never have an issue of students not being in class. We never have students trying to look at each other's computer screen and different things of that effect. So we randomize our test questions and they're self-graded by FoolProof. So when a student completes a test, inside of 10 seconds, the teacher has, the student's test score. And then there's an option to track the student's progress. I use that a lot. And when I was using FoolProof in my classrooms, and I'm going to show that a little bit when we go live. But in the process, what you look at is we tried to look at it from an education point of view. What would make this easiest to put into a classroom for a teacher? And I know as a classroom teacher, there's been other programs that I've used in the past that are very hard to have the students register, very hard to be able to understand, are they meeting the standards and the standard learning objective? So the process is that's what we wanted to do for teachers.
Well, now that you've piqued everybody's interest with that great explanation, how do teachers go about registering for financial empowerment?
Well, I'm going to take you live on the site now. We're going to share the screen. So if everybody can just kind of make sure it shows up when I do it. And we're going to go into the process of going through a couple of the steps and how teachers are easy to access FoolProof. And once they're on FoolProof, how they can go through the process of using it. So for teachers to be able to go through the process to get an access code and to use FoolProof, they're going to want to go to the Teachers Credit Union website. And they go through the process of logging onto their website. And I'm going to take you through it now. So they go to personal and they go down to financial empowerment. They click on financial empowerment, and this will bring them to the TCU site. So there's information on this site. I suggest they click on get started. And this brings them to some of the information that's available for them for FoolProof. But we're going to go in and we're going to look at the registration part of FoolProof. So we're going to go to the home section. Okay. And we are going to click on register for FoolProof. Click on education. And this brings you to the FoolProof site. So it's a welcome to TCU's Financial Empowerment Program. There's a middle school version, the high school version, the college version, and the homeschool version. They're going to click on the middle school version and the high school version, and that's going to give them some background on what FoolProof is, what our curriculum is, and everything that we deal with. As we go through it, we're going to click on the register. And they're going to go ahead and they're going to register their FoolProof for their FoolProof teacher account. They're going to give their school name, their street address, everything, their email address. How did they learn about FoolProof? They would type in TCU, and then they would hit the button to submit. In 24 hours or less, they will get an access code. The access code will give them the ability to use FoolProof. So what we do is we go through the process of vetting the teacher to make sure they're a teacher. Our marketing team will go through and they'll make sure that person is a teacher. They will get an email from FoolProof with an access code. Once they receive that, they stay right on the same site and they go to login. Okay, and you can see the student login and the teacher login is there. They go ahead and they click on the teacher login, and this program will be able to show them that that's how they got their access code. We took care of that. When they get their code, they click on teacher account here. They enter their access code. The access code is used one time. So they would go ahead and they would fill in their first name, last name, work email address. We check that again. And then we go username and password. Username and password then becomes their login to be a FoolProof teacher as they go through it. Once they do that, they hit submit. Okay, we'll make sure there's not another, John Smith or someone else that has the same username and password, because we have tremendous amount of usage on FoolProof. We're going to make sure it's their own username and password, and then they can register right here. So as they go in, the username and password will get them into FoolProof. The access code makes sure they're a teacher. They change it to username and password, and they are ready to go. So I have created an account. And I've just used the demo site. So I just type in district. They enter their username and password and they sign in, and it will take them to the FoolProof site. So now you can see the Teachers Credit Union logo in the top side. And this is our site that goes through the process of, everything a teacher needs here in FoolProof. So once they get their account, Okay. And then how do you use the program, or as we go through it? The first thing I want the teacher to do is I want to have them look at the program. So they can click on the components and they're going to take a look. So for instance, if we have a middle school teacher, they would click on middle school and they would go ahead and they would look at all the information that there's for middle school. We have the downloading teachable guide package that we talked about. Great information for teachers to look at. That'll download it. Okay. And then they can check the core message. I, of course, as a teacher, would never let anything in my classroom that I haven't vetted. We always encourage teachers to go take a look at it and see what the core message of our middle school modules are. The teacher has the ability to view the module. They can preview the test. They can download the test and the keys if they want to use the testing that way, as we call it, paper and pencil. And of course, there's a teaching guide that they could click on also. So they could do that for every module to see what's in FoolProof. They can do the same thing in the high school components. The high school components has modules, assignments, and activities. Everything can be done the same way. So they would go ahead and they would check the core message for module 1. They could go ahead and view the module. Teachers could do the modules as they went through it, download the tests and the keys and the teaching guide as they go through. So as teachers look at this, as they go through and they look at the course descriptions and they look at the process of what FoolProof is going to bring into their classrooms, they can always have an idea of what's there. The other thing about FoolProof as they log in, they, as I call it, are the captain of the ship. They can do this any way that they want. They can incorporate modules in certain ways. They can incorporate assignments in certain ways. And again, I'll go through that process and show how the teachers how to create a class and a curriculum here in a minute. We also have the standards alignment. This button would bring everything to the state of Indiana, and that would show the alignments of all the standards in the state of Indiana, as well as how they align to FoolProof. And then we have curriculums. So there's a way that the teacher can customize a curriculum for their students. And I'm actually going to take you through this process because if a teacher is teaching, I know back in the day I had 6 preps, and in the 6 preps, I may have had 3 of the classes the same. So instead of creating 3 different curriculums, I can create one curriculum that would be used in all 3 of my personal finance classes. If you're using FoolProof as a supplement in an economics class or family consumer science class, you can actually name this curriculum so it actually can be used in every one of your classes. So you don't have to create 5 or 6 different curriculums. So if you go to the component section, like I talked about, and you go down to the curriculums menu, and of course, your teachers can look at how to create the curriculum and the curriculum overview. That'll go through, and we have a demo curriculum there, but I'm going to create one as we go through it. So you click on create a curriculum, and we're going to name the curriculum. So I want to make sure I click on high school because I'm creating a high school curriculum, and you have the ability to go ahead and select all the modules and or assignments that you want to use. So for instance, for this one, I am going to do modules only just to save a little time. So I'm going to go check all and check all. And what that is telling the computer program is that I want to use all of the modules in the FoolProof High School. So let's say I have a personal finance. I'm going to call it PF. And again, I'm going to use this for personal finance. And I'm going to use it for the school year because I may want to change it after a while. And I'm going to say 2018, 2019. And that's going to be my personal finance. Now, I don't want to set that for period 1, period 2, period 3, because I'm going to create my classes that way. So as I go through it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up my curriculum. Once I'm done, I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I've decided that I'm not going to use any of the assignments or activities in this curriculum that I've created. I go down and I click Save. So now you can see that my curriculum is there in my personal finance school year 2018-2019. So it is there for me to now go ahead and create my classes. So you would do the same thing for the middle school. If you want to go ahead to the middle school and you want to create a curriculum, as you go through and you look at the creating of the curriculum, you would name your curriculum, you would check them all, and you would go from there. Okay? Now I'm going to create my classes. So we're going back to school. I've gone to my meeting, my school meeting, and I've gone through it, and my administrator has given me my class schedule. So now I know what I'm teaching for the day. I go to classes, and again, I have all my classes that I've done before, but I'm going to actually now set up a new class. So I'm going to go into the process. I'm going to set up a new class, and I'm going to name the course name. So now this gets a little bit more specific, but we're going to just go PF, and let's say you have it period 1, and it's a half year class, so you're going to say fall 2018. Okay, and then your grade, let's say it's a mix, so you can put 11/12. We've already created a little bit of that for you, and then you can select a curriculum as we go through it. So I have selected a curriculum. I have created one, sorry, and I'm going to call it PF School Year 2018-2019. That's the one I've created. You can now leave your class instruction. So a couple things you could write in there. Welcome to FoolProof. I can't wait for you to start the program. We're going to have a great year together. And this class instruction will come up every single time the students actually pick a module. Or you can say you must do these modules in a certain order. In most cases, teachers like to do them as we assign them 1 through 18, and that's how the computer program will assign them. So I always type in a nice little message to my students. As you look at the class settings, the Smartboard class, and this is something that our tech team has created, and we love the idea that not everybody has the ability to use, the computer lab. Or when I left my high school, we were a 1-to-1 school, so everybody had a laptop. You can use FoolProof as an interactive textbook, and it's kind of neat. So if you have some students that have a little bit of an issue with comprehension and you want to use it as a presentation form, you could actually make your Smartboard class or your class a Smartboard class. You would click yes. You would actually use a projector and the modules, and you would teach FoolProof by using our modules. But when the students are done, you get a computer lab, you get a laptop card, you get an iPad card or whatever you can get, and they can take their exams online. So that function of the graded test is still there and all the record keeping. But again, that's just in case you have to do this. Auto reset failed tests. I always click no on this, and here's why. I want to reset a test if a student has failed. If a student has failed a test, I like the ability to go ahead and review the test with the student, go through the process of what they got right and wrong, and then they go ahead and I reset the test as a teacher. Now, some districts would, just let the students take it strictly inclusive, all turnkey, and you can set how many times you can reset the test. On the other hand, you can still click no, and you can put 2, 3, 4, whatever you want in there, the maximum of attempts as you go through, and it can be that way. I also leave it as no for the review of the test, but we give the teachers the option. I like to review it with my students. I click on their name, I bring up their test, and I do, a little 1-to-1 teaching. But if you're using FoolProof turnkey, using it as a homework assignment or using it as some type of other way that FoolProof is used all over the country, you can click yes, and they can review as they go through it. So as you go through it, you set up your classroom. Like I said, you're kind of the captain now of FoolProof. You can make your choices as you go through it. The pass grade in New York State, we did not have a graduation requirement in FinLit. We had one in Econ. I was teaching personal finance. I would do this. I'd put a penny on the table, 50 cents on the table, 65 cents on the table, 80 cents on the table, and $1 on the table. And I would say the state of New York says you're worth 65 cents on $1. They didn't like that. So in the process is that I would go ahead and I say, listen, I'm going to challenge you all to get 80. Now, remember, I'm not going to deal with a parent who says my kid failed personal finance because they didn't get an 80. But I would make sure that I would use the review the test, the maximum attempts to make sure that, because I believe financial literacy is one of the most important topics that we deal with. I did have some students take the challenge where I put it at 100. And then, of course, I had a dip in my pocket because, I had to pay them sometimes when they got 100. But the idea is that you can go through that process and set it the way your school district wants. We also have the ability to go regular account or special education account. Now, I've taught inclusive classes and I've taught other classes that some students had some special needs when it comes to test modifications and different things. You would not make your entire class a special education class, but you have the ability to do it when you click on the student's name once they're registered, and they get a version of FoolProof that's been written under a special education account. If you have a full class with kids that have test modifications or some special needs, the process is that you can use this, so you don't have to do it individually. Once this is done, you would just hit submit. Once your class is created and you feel good about it, you hit it in the process. So you can see that I've created that class. This class now has all the attributes that I've just set toward it. It has a curriculum that I've created. It has how many tests they can take, the reset of the tests, and everything that I've done. Now, you can edit it anytime you want by clicking the edit button as you go through the year. But most teachers kind of leave it as they go through the process. This number is very important. This C2Y2897 that you see on your screen, that's how your students would register for your class. So, in this process, and I'll be very quick with it, and I'll just explain it quickly. Your students would log in the same way your teacher did. They would go in, they'd go in the TCU site, they would go ahead and click, as we showed you, and they would click on the login, and they would go to student. FoolProof is gonna ask you, is that the code? And that code is going to be typed into the box by the student, and it's going to say, is Mike Sheffer your teacher? And it's going to say, if it is, you click yes. And then the students would register the same way the teacher did, username and password. And your students then would be filed into this class. That's how quick it is. You can register an entire class of FoolProof inside of 2 minutes, because all they got to do is type in the code and use username and password. Now, again, FoolProof has a lot of users. So if you have a Bill Johnson and he put his username as B Johnson, you're going to have a situation where there may be another one. So you'd advise them to put in their middle initial, something to that effect. But it's very user friendly from teachers and students as we go through it. As we look at the demo class in the next series of questions, it talks about, how to edit your class or how to view your class. We created a demo class, so your teachers would have all their classes listed here. So, for instance, this is a demo class, and these are the 3 students in the demo class. Now, again, you'd have a lot more than that. We can check their progress, their grades. Now, remember, the pre-test and the post-test is now being embedded in the module. So it'll come into their grade section when we created this demo. As I click on it, there we go. It'll give you the description of what we have done for the new school year in 18-19. But if you look at the progress of your students, here are your students. You click on the progress bar. These green boxes mean the student has completed the module. Okay? And this 99% means is they still have to take that test. The no box in the 8, 9, 10 for Martina shows that she has not started. If you look at Bert is done with FoolProof all the way through it. If you look at Lupta, she is done, but when you click on the box, she now sees this red token. That means that she has, or the half box, she has not passed the test yet. So you can gauge your students. Now, what happens is this 99%, it clicks every single time a student finishes a page. So it goes 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, and all the way to the end. I put my class up on the smartboard or the screen when they're in the room doing FoolProof. So I can see that Martina is increasingly going through the modules the way she's supposed to. It's just a nice way for you to check. Now, the teacher can check even if they're not in class. So let's say you've assigned this as a homework assignment. You can go online, bring up your class, and see what the completion rate is for your students prior to them coming into class. If you look at the grades, you can see all their grades here. You can see these are weighted grades, Martina got 13 out of 16. Some teachers use that as a quiz instead of a test grade, but we do the calculation just in case they want to convert it to 100. You can see that Martina has gone through and she's only taken those first 6 tests. This is the one I was talking about. You can see Lupta has gone through. Bert has completed FoolProof. There is no tests in the modules between 5 and, as you look at 6 and the modules in 7, those are guided practice. That's explained in the teacher guide. But you can see her grade right now is 54. This would have to be retested and or done differently for her to get a full credit in FoolProof, unless you've set it at 2 to 3 passes, and after the third one, the grade stands as it is. These are their final grades in all the modules in FoolProof. So everything is done for the teacher as they go through in the grading process. And in the new program that when your teachers start it in the fall, they will see their their pre-test scores. And of course, this score right here would be their post-test score. And then we would show the difference in the standing learning objective. Is it positive or is it negative? So that's kind of how the teachers register and create their classes and all that. And I know there was one more question that I can address right now. When a teacher signs into FoolProof and they come in, this is the page they see. This is the teacher's homepage. You can see I was District 1. That was my, and I came in under the account. This would say the teacher's name and what school they're in. Every update that we have on FoolProof will be sent to this back page. So the curriculum updates will be there. Okay. Any news on FoolProof will be there. And as we go through it, there's all these quick links that are there for the teachers as they go through the teaching tips, how to implement FoolProof. We have teachers contact us all the time and let us know how they're using it. And if we think it's a great idea, we'll send it to all our teachers. This is the notice that all the teachers received that are FoolProof teachers already. This is our new updates for the year. And then as we go through the year, we'll have other updates coming in. There is a lot of other information as they go through and use FoolProof. This is telling them, the students, if they click on that star in the toolbox, it'll go to an article that is actually assigned to that topic of personal finance, and it reiterates the learning that's done in the FoolProof modules. So again, I always tell teachers when I give the presentation, you can't break this thing. Your job is to go play a little bit. As they go in and they look at the components, the classes, accounts. I mean, I'm on the road all the time now since I'm retired from teaching, and I do a lot of teacher presentations and workshops, and we play a lot. We get in there and I show them different things and how to do it, and we're doing it quick right now. But we also have teacher guides for the teachers, the quick start guides for the students, everything they need. And of course, with us with FoolProof, they ask us a question inside of 24 hours. We're going to answer them because I understand that as a teacher. I'm implementing something in my classroom and I've got it in my lesson plan. And a couple of days ahead, I'm not quite sure exactly how it's going to work. I'm going to need an answer as a teacher. And we really pride ourselves on that. So that's a quick overview of how the teachers can use our program and different way how they can get their access code and everything that we went through. And again, if teachers have any questions, they can always just reach out to us.
That was a great explanation, Mike. And there's a lot of information there that you went through in it very quickly. But to have that curriculum available, to have it customizable, to use good teaching practices, it sounds like just an outstanding program for the benefit of the students in personal finance and financial literacy. So FoolProof has done a tremendous job of preparing this for Teachers Credit Union and certainly the students that will benefit through Teachers Credit Union. So thank you for that great explanation. We appreciate it. And thank you for your work with the schools and with the teachers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, Karol, if teachers have questions about the program and they need technical support or just have general questions, how can they reach that information?
Well, perhaps the most efficient way is through our online support. Once they're in the Financial Empowerment Program and in the teacher portal, there is a support button. They can click on the support button, and if they scroll down, they'll see Contact Us. And within the Contact Us, there are several areas that they can reach, whether it's technical support, or if they want to talk to Mike Sheffer directly, or if they want to talk to someone from TCU. Maybe they want some assistance from one of our managers to come into their classroom or that type of thing. They can just click on the appropriate button, and we will be notified of their request, and we'll respond to them immediately with an answer on what we can provide them for their classroom. And or if it's technical support and it's going directly to FoolProof, they'll get back with them within 24 hours.
Wow. Can't make it any easier. All of the information that's available, the ease of use with the information, the resources that TCU makes available to the teachers. What a tremendous program. So thank you so much for offering this to our students and to our teachers and making it almost foolproof for people like me that would have difficulty doing something like this. So the name is certainly appropriate.
You're welcome.
I want to thank Mrs. Griffin, Mr. Guthrie, and Mr. Sheffer for being our guest on IPSS's edition of the Indiana Education Insight. And now it is time to wrap up this episode with my take on the current state of affairs in Indiana education. There are many factors that go into preparing all students to become lifelong learners and contributors in the 21st century. As such, we need to begin to change the dialogue. We're now approaching another General Assembly session in 2019 with the knowledge we need a different approach in how schools are receiving and retaining teachers. An important aspect is teacher salary as well as respect for the profession. In light of that fact, educators are the very fabric upon which this country was built and a primary pillar of our democracy. Should this not be part of the dialogue? I see these as investments in our children and in our state, not as an expenditure. Perhaps we can pursue this issue and others in another segment. On our next show, we will continue to pursue issues pertinent to Indiana public schools, and perhaps we will provide some additional insight into the State House and education. Join us for that and more on the next Insight into Indiana Education. Thanks for being part of education, and please stand up for Indiana public schools.